the blockchain will be growing. The blockchain will grow forever. The UTXO set might get bigger. So we'll need software changes that can handle the challenges of the future. There's now features coming out just for descriptors. And in the 30.0 release, finally, we turn off the ability to create legacy wallets. And if this works better than the previous package, we might see an increase in the nodes that are publicly available. There's a widespread misunderstanding, I think, that this is to mitigate use of witness data, inscriptions, and so forth. I think it is not that related to inscriptions at all.
The Blockworks Digital Asset Summit, crypto's premier institutional event, is coming back to London this October, the 13th to the 15th. You'll hear from top names across global finance, DeFi, and policy. Think BlackRock, Circle, Coinbase, and the UK Parliament. Notable speakers already locked in include Danny Masters from CoinShares, Jeff Park from Bitwise, and plenty more to come. There's also a VIP dinner on October the 13th. That's for speakers and VIP ticket holders only. It will sell out. It's all happening at the Old Billingsgate in London. Use code SUPPLY100 at checkout for £100 off.
Quick reminder, nothing said on Supply Shock is a recommendation to buy or sell any investment or product. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and the views expressed by anyone on the show are solely their opinions, not financial advice or necessarily the views of Blockworks. Our hosts, guests, and the Blockworks team may hold positions in the company, sponsor, or projects discussed.
Hey everybody, Pete Rizzo, the Bitcoin historian on X here with another great Supply Shock podcast. Today, we're going to be diving deep into the forthcoming release of Bitcoin Core version 0.30, which of course, much Twitter discourse. Here to break it down, we've got Murch, a prolific contributor to the Bitcoin Stack Exchange and co-founder of local host research at Bitcoin development community out in California. Murch, happy to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Pete.
Well, I want to break down the process of, obviously, there's a new Bitcoin Core software release. There's been a lot of debate about, what the features that have been included. But for those who don't know about the software development process, this is really a years-long process during which, hundreds of developers weigh in and carefully vet hundreds of different proposals for ways to change Bitcoin. And this release really represents a really hardened and vetted set of proposed changes. So, Murch, maybe you could just take us in to the release. How long has it been in progress? And can you speak a little bit to the work that goes into a major release candidate like this?
Okay, so we put out a Bitcoin Core release, a major release, we call it, about every half year. So this is currently scheduled for April and October. We aim to have a release candidate, as we have right now, late in September or late in March. So generally, whatever happened in the last half year, before the previous or since the previous release is gonna end, is now ready to be released, will be in the new release. So the process is basically we just work on the main branch of the project, the master branch, and then I believe in end of August we had a feature freeze where we do not accept new features to the master branch for a short period of time, only bug fixes, and then we branch off the release branch, and the release branch then becomes the release later in the month. So feature freeze was, I think, end of August, and the release branch was cut about a week later or 2 weeks. So now we're just doing bug fixes, testing, writing release notes, documenting, and so forth. We have release candidate 2 out since yesterday. So usually we go for the major releases through maybe up to 4 release candidates. So the first release candidate is just when the branch is cut. And then after that, for example, we found, I think there was an issue with Windows and so forth. So as bug fixes get put into that release branch, a new release candidate is cut. And eventually, when the release candidates are found to be solid, that becomes the final version and is properly released. So the goal is usually first week of October, but depending on how many release candidates are put out and so forth, it might actually be mid-October or so when the major release comes out. So this is 30.0. We did drop this leading zero, I think, for version 22.
Oh, okay, right, exactly, yeah. Obviously the process around Bitcoin Core has grown up a lot over the years. On this show, I really focus on Bitcoin history. There's a lot about the early Satoshi period and, the early Gavin Andresen management of the software where, pretty aggressive changes and experimental changes were pushed to the software, in a couple weeks' time, sometimes without a ton of review. Can you speak to sort of the way the process has evolved since you've been contributing?
There is a little more process around it. Generally, most people work on scratching their own itches or what they think is the most important thing to work on. So we have currently 5 maintainers. Their job is to facilitate releases and to go around the repository at their own review. And when they perceive pull requests to be ready for merge, they they usually add their own review and then merge the things that are uncontroversial and have been vetted sufficiently, have been reviewed, have sufficient tests, move the project forward. So it's a bit of more of a service to the community that certainly does eat into the time of the maintainers to work on their own projects, because just keeping abreast of all the other pull requests other people are working on, of course, takes quite a bit of time. And the release process keeps whoever is the main captain of the release pretty busy for a few weeks when it comes out. Then after a release is out, we usually have point releases for bug fixes, or when, for example, for the minimum relay transaction fee rate change that we recently made, that was put into the 29.1 release. So the minor releases do not include new features usually. They only have bug fixes and backported stuff. So they tend to be smaller. But if you're on a major branch and you don't want to have to go through the vetting process as much, whether all of this is compatible with your setup at a business, like you have multiple different pieces of software that integrate with Bitcoin Core, then you might choose to first upgrade to a point release to get the bug fixes without kicking off the whole is there anything in here that breaks compatibility sort of issues. Yeah, and then the major branches are maintained for 2 more releases afterwards. So currently we're maintaining the 28 major branch and the 29 major branch. I think 28 is 28.2 right now, and 29 is 29.1 since recently, like less than a month ago. And for the 30 branch, we'll have the release hopefully in about 2 or 3 weeks. At that point, there will be a final release for 28. And only if there's a really critical issue, there would be anything backported to 28 after October, I guess. And so the maintained releases at that point would be 28.3, presumably 29.1 or 2 if there's anything backported at that point, and 30.0.
So this is a feature release, and you're adding a sort of new elements to the software. Can you give us a sense of how many ideas are vetted for inclusion in something like this? And is this kind of a select group that gets through to the end results? Is it sort of a gauntlet to get to this point in the software development process?
I mean, there's certainly a bit of a gauntlet. It takes some grit to maintain your pull request, to keep rebasing, to work through merge conflicts if other people are working on similar projects or pull requests that change the same code. You might need to see, if this gets merged first, I'll have to make a few little tweaks and changes in order to be compatible. The other big thing is everything gets reviewed by 3 to 5 other contributors at least, and they tend to review it 3 to 5 times. So you write your code once, you update it a few times, probably rebase a couple times, but then there's also this review burden on a bunch of the other reviewers where you get 9 to 25 times reviews of the code from other contributors, which is, you've probably seen people say, oh, review is the bottleneck. It's not that people aren't doing review, it's that the review burden is so much bigger than the writing the code burden. Sure, there might be a bunch of research going into, oh, what exactly do we want to do? How do we motivate it? Maybe measure whether it's better or other sort of research to motivate the change in the first place. But then the prying away other people from their projects and getting them to review your stuff for a total of 10 to 25 times, that can really take some time. So recently, for example, we merged a change to send all, and I think that had been open for over a year. It can sometimes take a little time until things are considered ready and included. But other than that, it's just whatever gets merged to the master branch. It's not that we vote on, oh, we'll do this or that in this release. Whatever is ready gets put in.
Well, let's talk about some of the big changes and just some of the overhauling that's been done. So I understand there's looking at the release notes draft. So the wallet here, there's been some changes in how the Bitcoin Core software wallet behaves. Some of these have been in flight for 3 or 4 years. Since kind of the older wallet was sunsetted in the software. Maybe you can take us in and what users can expect. And I can imagine, I'd be curious, who is the target user for the Bitcoin Core wallet software these days?
That's an excellent question. Okay, so let's first talk about the user. I think Bitcoin Core Wallet is the forever wallet. It's still compatible with the wallet backup files that have always been created. You can load a wallet from the Satoshi code release, and it should still work fine in Bitcoin Core 30. This is one of the points that is very important to us, is anyone that used to have Bitcoin in a Bitcoin Core wallet or Satoshi-based wallet will be able to import and use it, right? But the original format of the wallet backup, or generally how the wallet stored data in the background, was dependent on something called Berkeley DB. And Berkeley DB was an open source piece of software that I think was purchased by Oracle or something, and they made it closed source after that. So the latest open source version had been unmaintained since 2014 or so. I'd have to look up the exact details. But we only used a very small subset of all the capabilities of that, but that was an unsatisfactory situation. And then we also came up with the idea of output descriptors a while back. I think that might be 5-6 years ago now, where instead of just describing how you create a set of keys, we combine that information with describing the entire output template, right? So not only what keys are being used, but rather how would you describe the whole wallet setup, essentially? So, for example, a descriptor would be a 2 or 3 multisig with a timeout after some time, it becomes 1 of 3. That would be something that you can back up as a complete package with an output script descriptor, whereas in the olden days, you'd have 3 XPubs, and then you'd have to have an idea how to put them together besides that. So you'd potentially have up to 4 pieces of backup that you'd have to back up for that wallet, right? So the descriptor wallet was introduced some 5 years ago or so. I know that the Migrate Wallet RPC was introduced in 24.0, which is 3 years ago. And over time now, it has reached feature parity and better support. There's now features coming out just for descriptors. And in the 30.0 release, finally, we turn off the ability to create legacy wallets. So Berkeley DB has been removed as a dependency. We cannot create or load Berkeley DB-based wallet backups at all anymore, only descriptor wallets. But of course, you will always be able to migrate a Berkeley DB wallet to the new output script descriptor format. New in quotation marks here because it's been 5 years or so. There's some little things that you probably wouldn't notice, but you used to be able to have watch only and spendable stuff in one wallet at the same time. That made a lot of things very complicated. So descriptor wallets are either watch only or they have private keys. So we always know either everything here is spendable or everything here needs to be signed off by an external device or a second computer. So backups are better. We're based on software that's maintained. We have a minimal rewrite of Berkeley DB in Bitcoin Core directly now that is read-only. It can only read the aspects of Berkeley DB that were ever used by Bitcoin Core. That's pretty much sort of the situation.
So when you think about you're talking about Bitcoin Core having a piece of wallet software in it, you were talking about the ability of anybody to load up that wallet at any time. Is that because you think it's important, or the developers think it's important for that to be available, just because other for-profit software wallets that are free, those might not be available, or what's the thinking, I guess, about because I think there are some folks, who might say, Bitcoin Core, they're rolling out a new wallet release. There's all these wallet options, right? There's a lot of companies that have come out, and even mainstream companies may offer wallets today. So, why differentiate and why have a core wallet?
Right. I think I forgot to answer who's the intended user. So, there are the users from the beginning. The first ever wallet was released with Satoshi's software release. So given that about half of all Bitcoin ever were created in the first 3.5 years, almost half, I don't know exactly when first other wallets came out, but a very, very large portion of all Bitcoin was created with the predecessor of the Bitcoin Core wallet. And if these people find their files again, or took a 10-year break and come back and are like, oh, wait, Bitcoin used to be a thing. I have this ancient file. Can I use it? And you will be able to do that. So that is sort of the forever part. Otherwise, I think we want to be a power user wallet. There's a lot of features of things that you can do with Bitcoin Core wallet that other wallets that we pioneer. So I think Miniscript, for example, is something. Output script descriptors. The hardware signing was one of the things that Ava put in pretty early. So in a way, it's a bit of a demo case of how new features could be used. In other ways, we hope that maybe small businesses and power users would be interested in using Bitcoin Core because, well, they can do their own coin control, or they can do more creative setups with maybe an air gap machine or things like that. So I know that the business support wasn't all that great for a while because the way the wallet remembered its own transactions was not very persistent. So every time when you were doing coin selection, for example, it would recalculate what all its UTXOs were from its history of transactions in the wallet. So if you used it for a business where you might have hundreds of transactions per week, that would grow pretty big, and then your coin selection would get pretty slow eventually. So these are some of the things that we've been taking a better look at recently. And so I think in this release, Bitcoin the Bitcoin Core wallet will remember all of its UTXOs. And then I think it might be in the next release that we'll also hopefully know exactly which ones are still spendable. But there should be some performance improvements. And then it's just hopefully a lot of the features that are not necessarily well established yet by other end user wallets. I mean, we also see other projects like, for example, Sparrow has a really sleek UX and is very good at creating multi-sig wallets. Other wallets such as Blue Wallet or Liana have pioneered other aspects like miniscript usage or just really simple single sig for mobile phone. So we're not trying to be better at everything, but sort of just showcasing what you can do with new features and always be there. So you'll always be able to import your old backups.
There's certainly a lot of old whale wallets moving, so maybe we'll see some more of that upcoming. So I know also you talked about before that you were particularly excited about this UPnP setting change. So this is in the updated settings portion, the build system portion of the release notes. Gets pretty technical here. Can you dive in and tell us what excites you about this change?
Bitcoin Core nodes are by default listening nodes, which means that they'll allow some inbound connections, but a lot of them don't actually do it because they're behind routers. And so for that, we had previously used this UPnP package, which would try to open a port on a router in order to make inbound connections possible. But if you take a look at the security disclosures on the Bitcoin Core site, there's been a couple of issues with UPnP over the past couple of years. And so this was removed as a dependency, and we needed something else. It was replaced by the NatPMP option.
Well, that seems like an external software library that just wasn't maintained anymore.
I don't know if it was unmaintained, but it definitely had a couple security issues, and I think we fixed some of our contributors fixed this upstream, but it just did a lot more things than we actually needed, and it seemed like it wasn't reliable enough for us. So I think Mara van der Laan wrote the new NatPMP thing, and now we ship our own port opening library. I think that some routers don't do this by default. So if you're finding that you used to be a listening node and now it doesn't work anymore without configuring your router, check if there's a PMP or NatPMP setting on your router and enable that. And then Bitcoin Core will open it up a port for itself and accept inbound.
And what's the optimization here in terms of like the end user, I guess, or why do you think this is a big upgrade for people?
It's in the sea of things happening. It's not humongous, but we want more listening nodes for the network to be more robust. I think there's about 20,000 nodes or maybe 25,000 nodes that are accessible from the public, and if this works better than the previous package, we might see an increase in the nodes that are publicly available and can help other light clients or other full nodes with open slots.
We'll just want to go down the list here. We've got a bunch of other stuff. We've got in the external signing, IPC mining interface, a lot of stuff here. So is this are these mining improvements or improvements aimed at specific kind of user sets like miners?
There's been a lot of talking about Stratum v2 and also Datum. And one of the questions was, how do you enable a local Stratum v2 process to get block templates from Bitcoin Core? Because the interface for that was a bit outdated and computationally intensive. So George has been working on supporting Stratum v2 in Bitcoin Core better for a while. And this is integrated with another long-term project, the multiprocess project, where especially Rasyanovsky had been working on pulling apart the node process. So the node is one part, which is just the P2P and the blockchain and everything. And then the GUI interface is a separate process. And I think the CLI is a separate process. But previously they were all running as one. This is shipping, I think, also in this release first time. Maybe it was already in 29.1. But the mining interface is making use of the Bitcoin node interface between the processes, and it enables you to listen on a Unix socket for new block templates and when blocks come in. So if you're trying to mine at home and want to build your own block template, this is a big step towards that being able with Bitcoin Core running on your node.
That's been a big thing, right? A lot of users are running Bitaxes and kind of the home mining movement. They want to be able to choose their own templates. So can you speak a little bit about why that's just something that we want to move forward with as a network?
So there's a big mining centralization issue going on for, well, basically forever. There's advantages for bigger miners just in scale. Maintaining 100 ASICs is much more cost efficient than maintaining one, right? You don't have to learn all the things just for one device. So they can make better energy contracts. They can put up a big hall full of these miners and have dedicated people that take care of them and so forth. So mining scales better if you have a big business. And we are at a situation now where the biggest two mining pools seem to control about 60% of the blocks that are being mined. That is Foundry right now and Antpool and Friends, where we assume that a number of smaller mining pools are actually mining on Antpool block templates. There are many different reasons why people might be concerned about Bitcoin lasting forever, but one of them is if a majority of the hash rate starts colluding against the interest of the network, that could be quite problematic. So if the block templates are controlled by only these 2 or maybe 3 mining pool operators, they would be able to censor transactions or otherwise introduce soft forks or basically decide by themselves to change network reality. One of the ways of how that could be fought is if instead of just participating in a mining pool, getting the block template from the mining pool operator, doing work, and then if you succeed, contributing back your solution to the mining job, if you could provide your own block template locally sourced and then prove to the mining pool that you're doing useful work, and then if you find a block or a share, which is like a easier block target that just demonstrates that you're doing useful work, if you upload that and they accept your work, we would be able to at least pry away the definition of what gets into the block template to the miners at home. So Datum and Stratum v2 are an effort to enable people to get the benefit of working in a mining pool, which means that they smooth out the revenue without giving the mining pool operator the full control over what goes into these blocks. This is awesome, but currently not very well adopted yet. It's maybe 5% of the hash rate that comes out of locally sourced block templates. So this is pretty nascent still, hopefully to be adopted a lot more.
Long way to go there. So maybe there's been a lot of focus recently on just home node operators, people on the network who are running nodes, demonstrating various concerns about the software process. I guess what would you say to a node operator? Why run version 0.30 or sorry, version 30? I keep doing the zero.
Yeah,
Old habit.
it was 10 years like that.
Yeah, version 30. So what's the appeal to the node operator at this point? What would you say to the average person running a node to run version 30?
It is the latest release of Bitcoin Core. We do maintain the latest 2 major branches, and there should be a final release of the previous major branch. I think there's a bunch of very good performance improvements, bug fixes, and other improvements in version 30. So, for example, IBD is somewhere 15 to 18%. Sorry, not IBD. Reindexing is 15 to 18% faster with 30 than with 29. IBD is probably even more than 20% faster. So if you start a new node running on 30, you'd simply get better performance out of essentially all the same otherwise. It is the version that you have to update the least, or not the least, but that will be maintained for the longest time from this point onward. If you were now upgrading to 28.1, or 28.2, you wouldn't expect to get another update to that after October. Other than that, please feel free to run any software you want. That's all. Pick the software that serves your needs best. It's an offer. It's open source software provided without any warranty. It's our best suggestion from a bunch of 30 to 40 people working almost full-time on Bitcoin Core, and you do you.
Interesting. So there's a lot of FUD certainly about the upcoming release. Unfortunately, some suggestions that even running version 30 is detrimental to Bitcoin in some way. What's your quick take on just how to dispel that, or folks who are concerned about that? Maybe you can speak a little bit why they should not be concerned about that.
I think that Bitcoin Core 30 is a very good release. The controversial point appears to be the change in the up return limit. And in my perspective, this is a benign change. The main argument for making this change is that that people who are putting data on Bitcoin are currently financially incentivized and by reliability incentivized if they want the data to be available directly in this transaction, to put it in payment outputs instead. Putting data in payment outputs brings us things like stamps, and they just tend to live forever in the UTXO set. The UTXO set being the minimal state that a node needs in order to be able to validate transactions. So this is perceived as a bug in the incentives. And we do have a garbage bin for data, the standard transaction types, which is the up return output, currently limited to 83 bytes. By increasing the size of up returns, hopefully it will be reliable enough and slightly cheaper than putting it into payment outputs, and at least people put it in up return instead of payment outputs. There's a widespread misunderstanding, I think, that this is to mitigate use of witness data, inscriptions, and so forth. I think it is not that related to inscriptions at all. But inscriptions are also a reality of the network right now, and it is a standard transaction right now to put up to 400,000 bytes into inscriptions. So making a field explicitly created for storing the data a little bigger, well, I shouldn't say a little, significantly bigger, but still smaller than what is allowed in inscriptions, while it is also more expensive, means that we're hopefully only enticing the people that would have put the data in payment outputs instead to put them into up return. And instead, where people were using inscriptions before, they would continue to use inscriptions. I don't think we will significantly change the up return use here. If people decide to have another funny scheme where they put data in up returns now, there might be an overall slight increase in data until that hype also tapers off. But putting data in up return is computationally unproblematic because literally the first opcode says, all of this is not going to be a valid UTXO. This will not be spendable, and we don't have to check, does it have valid signatures? Does it have, computationally up return is very cheap to validate. We don't have to put it in the UTXO set because we know it's unspendable. And people can write to the blockchain already. From the technical perspective, I think up return is the most benign way of inserting data in the blockchain. I understand that a big concern is also that we sort of permit data insertion now. There's now an appropriate way of doing it, so people feel like they have permission to do it, and I appreciate that is an interpretation that I understand people can hold, but yeah. So I don't have a very good response to that one because I feel that that's a valid concern. I just don't think that with schemes jumping up already that explicitly write data to payment outputs because they can't fit all of it in op return, I feel that the concern of people writing massively to payment outputs is a bigger concern than having a designated garbage bin that is bigger now.
Yeah, you used a couple interesting words there, like accepting the network reality and permit, and it does seem like there's a significant minority of users at this point that want Bitcoin Core to sort of, you know, be the referee of network activity. Obviously, historically, you know, there was a big push in 2014 and 2015 for core developers not to be seen as controllers or issuers of the software, right? A big chunk of the fork wars, I think, is, you know, really summarized by Peter Todd, you know, basically saying that, you know, the core developers don't want to be seen as authority figures or, you know, people who are in charge on these types of issues. What would you say to folks who want, you know, a heavier-handed approach, right? They maybe just want the ability to discourage certain types of use of Bitcoin.
I think Peter Todd, if that was his position, has a very fine point here. You have to think about this being a double-edged sword. If Bitcoin Core plays the referee of what is allowed on the Bitcoin network, Bitcoin Core can also be asked by other people to be the referee about other things. And I think that is one of the big reasons why Bitcoin Core does not want to cultivate the issue of being in control of the network or being in control of what is permitted and so forth. Yeah, I think it's just not a responsibility that most Bitcoin Core developers want, and B, it creates a attack vector, a different new attack vector. By putting that responsibility and authority into Bitcoin Core, other organizations can also lobby Bitcoin Core and demand that they do things.
So if we are heading towards a network where there are multiple implementations, it seems like right now, you know, we'll knock on wood, we'll see, but it seems like there's a number of people who want, you know, an alternative option. Do you think technically, you know, or do you have concerns here? Do we know enough about how Bitcoin can operate with multiple implementations with significant adoption? I mean, to my knowledge, I don't think that there's ever been a instance on the Bitcoin network where that's been the case.
I mean, for example, there's been BTCD for a very long time. A lot of the Lightning nodes use BTCD in their backend. There have been a couple consensus failures with BTCD at some point. The same applies to any new node implementations that would be on the block. So if the network disagrees on blocks being valid or something like that, part of the network would just stop following the chain, right? And if there's significant economic activity on both sides of that split, it might just mean that the entire network says, okay, stop everything. Let's wait until this is sorted out. This is just risky right now. We don't know how this will be resolved in the end. So you get sort of these sort of issues when there's very significant adoption of multiple clients. You have a lower risk of a catastrophic failure of the entire network going down, but a higher risk of something being misaligned. Basically, all of these new node implementations would have to be bug by bug compatible with each other. I think we're much closer to being able to do this more safely. There has been a lot of work on the libBitcoin consensus, which is a library inside of Bitcoin Core that encapsulates the consensus code and P2P code. And that has reached in early, well, let's say MVP level. There is now one project that I'm aware of that is trying to build a Rust client that wraps this libBitcoin consensus. And if everybody runs the same consensus engine and the same P2P code, it could be much safer to, for example, build an Electrum node around it that serves address indexes and whatever people want, or scans for silent payments, or whatever other people might want out of node software that is currently not served by Bitcoin Core. So I think if people are thinking about that, they should be looking into the Bitcoin kernel and use that, hopefully. There's a few other implementations that have been doing a pretty decent job. So BTCD and NOTs, I guess, have not split off the network consensus-wise, right?
Murch, final question here. There's a cultural perception, I think, these days. A lot of people are trying to maintain a level head in this debate. There's a sort of a general call to conservatism, right? This idea that their development culture should be conservative, shouldn't rush to make changes. I guess, what would you say for folks who don't think that the Bitcoin Core is being conservative right now? Do you consider Bitcoin Core the more conservative project of the current four? And what's your general attitudes toward this sentiment that seems to be out there about conservatism in software?
I think that generally Bitcoin Core tends to be very conservative about changes. Features are merged after very heavy vetting. Generally, debates go on maybe even a little too long. We've been talking about covenants for 10 years now, and we only got time locks so far. I think in some ways we might be a little prone to falling to ossification too early. I would say that currently Bitcoin does not scale as far as we'd like. So, for example, the Lightning Network has greatly scaled payments, but it hasn't really succeeded at scaling users of the Lightning Network as easily. So it seems to be becoming more of a lingua franca between different Bitcoin services rather than an end user solution where everybody runs their own Lightning node to facilitate their instant payments. So I'm thinking that we probably do want some more opcodes and changes to the Bitcoin protocol in order to facilitate even better scaling. I don't think that we should be claiming that Bitcoin is already perfect and shut down development in that regard. And even if we decided to not develop the protocol further, we would still need to maintain the software. As operating systems and hardware advances, there will be new incompatibilities with software that's written for other operating systems and previous hardware, right? We'll still need to update our software to keep up with the reality. The blockchain will be growing. The blockchain will grow forever. The UTXO set might get bigger. So we'll need software changes that can handle the challenges of the future, and we don't know what all of those will be today. So I think that there is room for maybe more protocol changes if we can ever rally around any single idea and really think that through far enough. And I think it would be disappointing if this was the final evolution of Bitcoin. I think there's much more potential there still.
Well, thanks for the thoughts, and appreciate all the work that's going on behind the scenes, especially the stuff that we don't see every day, because it's important that Bitcoin keeps running for everybody out there who's using it as money. Hopefully an ever larger number of people doing that. So, Murch, appreciate you coming on. Where can people follow you and stay in touch with what's going on in Bitcoin development?
Yeah, so you can follow localhost research through our website. That is lclhost.org. We put out transparency reports where we talk a little bit about the work we're doing. We just published our second one in August. Myself, I'm on Twitter. Unfortunately, again, I had not been on Twitter for about half a year, which was brilliant, I must admit. So you can find me on Twitter as Merchandamus. And yeah, I'm a BIPs editor. So if you follow the BIPs repository, you might see my work there, or on Stack Exchange and various other Bitcoin discussions where I pop up.
This has been a look at the Bitcoin version 30 software. Of course, you can go look at the release notes on GitHub. If you're on the internet watching the show, blockworks.co/events. We'll be out in the UK coming this October, Digital Asset Summit. I'll be there bringing some Bitcoin discussions to a event with a lot of crypto folks, talking, of course, about everything that's going on from institutional adoption to the mainstreaming of stable coins and more. Once again, you go to blockworks.co/events. Find out more. We'll see you there. For now, this has been Supply Shock, a Blockworks podcast.